hours and hours of work involved with this, right? I mean, we've had this since 2017, and we still are learning more about it. This is an amazing photograph. Can anybody tell me if you've ever heard of the immune regiments? Anybody know what that means? The immune regiment was a term that was given to soldiers who, because of their racial or ethnic background, were considered immune from typhoid and other diseases in tropical climates. Today, considered quite racist, if you ask me, but this band says Hood's Immunes. And when you look closely, you can see that some of the people look like they may have Hispanic heritage or other characteristics that would have categorized them as immune to things like typhoid. So unfortunately, this is a legacy of social injustice that we have to acknowledge, but we think that this regiment was from Louisiana. We're not sure. It does say in the part of the drum there in the middle, 2nd Volunteer Infantry Band, and then it says Hood's Immunes, Camp Meade, Pennsylvania. But it's June 1899, so it's the year after the war already ended. Amazing photograph. And I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't talked to a researcher who came into the archives and was showing me and pointing things out, and I was like, oh wow, it does say immunes. What's that? And here's some more examples of our postcards. That's Indiantown Gap. Also we have one, Mount Gretna, which was Camp Hastings, also used as like a mustering out camp. So we do have about a little more than 100 postcards in the collection. We have been trying to do many different exhibitions to educate not only the Penn State Harrisburg community, but folks like you who are interested in this topic. So in the years since the pandemic, after we were able to process this collection, we had 2 different exhibitions. One was a celebration of the 125th anniversary of the formation of Camp Meade, and that was up from last October until February, earlier this year. Dustin Smith, Dustin, are you here? I thought maybe you were going to be here, but Dustin Smith was the archives intern that we had last semester, and he curated that exhibition. And then there's just some more images that you've already seen tonight. So if you want to learn more about this collection, about some of the other collections that we have a wonderful image database, which we call Flickr. A lot of people use it to post images. And we have actually information about the flood in Middletown from some of our collections, how Penn State Harrisburg celebrated Earth Day before it was known as Earth Day. It was called Fertility Day in the 70s. And a lot of our other collections are featured there. And we also have a really comprehensive website, which I made over the pandemic when we were all shut down and wondering what we're going to do with our time. So now we have a lot of information. It's exhaustive. There's information about our collections, our exhibitions, the reference and research that we do, our digital collections, Penn State Harrisburg history, all of our social media and blogs, of which we have quite a bit. And then also, here's that sign I think I was mentioning that someone borrowed for a couple decades and they brought it back. Those are the gentlemen that brought it back to us. If you're in the audience, I'm sorry for outing you. But it was a wooden sign that was actually on Route 230, and we proudly have this in our reading room today. So as you can see, we have everything from Facebook and Flickr to WordPress blogs and even Instagram and X to connect with us online. So we're always looking for more people to join us. We have been closed for the past couple of weeks because we've got brand new HVAC in our facility, so we are not really having open hours. And then the Thanksgiving break is coming next week, and then of course the semester will be over soon. So we hope to have more robust hours in the spring of 2024. So I think that's all that I have today. I just want to mention that I have a lot of resources here. That Camp Meade book that Mr. Greguras did is available through the High Spire Historical Society. I know my presentation will be available through Nancy. But 2 other things that are really important. There's a book. Anybody's curious, what role did women play in the Spanish-American War? A new book came out not that long ago by Cheryl Muhlenbach called Women of the Spanish-American War, Fighters, War Correspondents, and Activists. And as you can imagine, a lot of women were nurses during this war. But that came out in 2022. And one of the best books on the Spanish-American War is by Ivan Musicant, Empire by Default. And about Pennsylvania and the Spanish-American War, this fabulous book written by Richard Sowers, Pennsylvania and the Spanish-American War. It's now really hard to find. If you can find it on Amazon, it's not going to be cheap. It is out of print, but I still think it's probably the best heavily illustrated book. I refer to it all the time. And if you're really interested in learning more about this, I have a copy of this. Penn State Harrisburg also has a copy, and you can check that out there. So happy to take questions now, and if you're too shy to ask questions, you can always contact me. My business cards are on all the tables. There's also some handouts for the archives there. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope that you enjoyed tonight's presentation.
Do you know if there were any permanent structures there, or was it all just tents?
Permanent structures. I don't believe that there's anything left. If you're asking if it survived,
Yeah, not if
125
they
years.
survived, if they built like mess halls and things like that, or if it was all just tents.
Yeah, to my knowledge, there isn't anything that is still extant from the Spanish-American War. We do have some buildings that are on campus that were part of the Olmsted Air Force Base. So the original PX for the Air Force Base is still on our campus. Some of the buildings, the infirmary for the Olmsted Air Force Base is still on our campus. And we still have the fallout shelter in the basement of the Olmsted building. That was where the president would go, like during the Cold War era. So there's those things. The only thing I could say that might still have survived from the Spanish-American War would be like railroad ties. Because the railroad, it came like right around the campus area. Now, that's not there anymore. But other than that, yeah, sadly, I don't think so. If anybody knows of anything, please let me know. Thank you for that question. Yes?
So what year did the land change into the Olmsted 20-year base?
That history is a little complicated. After the Spanish-American War ended, the land went back to the Young family. It was actually leased by the Heinz Corporation for their 47 varieties of vegetables and making pickles and things. And that took place until the 19-teens. Then it had a series of name changes, like the Middletown Airfield, then it was the Olmsted Field, and then Robert Olmsted was actually a person who was assigned to the Olmsted Field, and when he perished in a balloon accident in the early 1920s, then they named the Air Force Base after him. And then it was the Olmsted Air Force Base until 1966, when it was decommissioned, and Penn State purchased it for $1. Pretty good deal, right? So that was only the north complex of the decommissioned Air Force Base. The other part that had Meade Heights and Risberg Hall, Church Hall, the PX for the Olmsted Air Force, we purchased that for over $1 million. So the north complex of the base was purchased in February of 1966 for $1. That's probably more than you wanted to know, right? But yeah, question. Yes?
It's my understanding that Camp Meade facilities were spread out over a much larger area than just
Yes.
the campus.
That's true, yes. Yeah, if I gave you the impression that it was just the campus, that you're correct. It wasn't just Penn State Harrisburg. We occupied part of the land the camp was on, but Camp Meade actually spread into Highspire, like up to the Turnpike area. It occupied the Woolland Farm, the Young Farm. So it's much more than just Penn State Harrisburg, but all of Penn State Harrisburg right now, to my knowledge, unless we're buying more stuff, is where the camps were located. Is that clarified? Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
I have a picture from where we're sitting, the Plaster Farm. You can see their barn with the troops in the field right here, what was, right next to us.
You have a
So they're not
photograph?
here.
Did you say you have a photograph of the field?
Electronic, it's a copy of one, it's electronic.
Oh, I'd love to see it. Do you know what's in the photograph?
A bunch of troops, and you can see, Bucket, I got it from Plaster, and you can see their barn in the back, and it's all troops, literally right here where the lottery building and, this whole area, the troops are right there, and you can see the barn in the background.
That's wonderful. That's exactly the kind of thing that Mr. Greguras loves to do. In his book, he actually has like then and now, and he traveled to many of the area around here, even though he lives in California. He's friends with a gentleman that owns a farm still around here. And he tried to map, you know, present day with like 1898. So I would love to see the photograph you have. Because I'm still trying to figure out where was the barn, right? Like there was a big barn that Colonel James Young had, and he's buried in the cemetery right next to campus. But I still can't figure out where his farm, like where was his main house?
Well, he had 9 farms.
Yeah, but the
Yeah.
one that's Keystone Farm, that we're on that part of that land, I don't think any of that still exists. Too bad. I wish it did. Any other questions? Yes?
In the construction of the Penn State, did they find any artifacts at all in digging and things like that?
Great question. I have been known to drive the guy who's in charge of maintenance and operations crazy on my campus because I'm always, he's retired now, Ed Dankanich, if anybody knew him. Every time we would dig, I'd say, did you find any shells? Did you find anything? And he would always say, no, Heidi, stop it. You know, like, so we were a Superfund site at one time in the 80s. And they cleaned all that up because people would just throw things away, right? Like, and then bury it. But to my knowledge, nothing's been uncovered as a result of Penn State digging. However, we are going to break ground on a new building maybe next year. So I don't know, there's still hope, right? Yes.
Addressing that, I've never found any relics, but I know several detectorists who found things just basically across the road.
Yes.
And off Lumber Street. And
Yep.
one day I was driving back from somewhere and I saw some people with metal detectors at the elementary school.
Oh.
And I stopped, what are you guys looking for? And they said Camp Meade. And that day they found a pin that said Camp Meade on it.
Really?
Right on the ground. They had permission. They had permission from the school.
Which school? Not the one they tore down near us,
Why
but.
can't I remember the name of it? My daughter went there. It's
Alex
right off
Demi?
Lumber Street and.
Kunkel.
Kunkel.
Oh, wow.
And also, there's the old stone house there, the old one that's there.
Yeah.
Well, that whole property, a friend of mine has permission behind there, and he's found quite a few things.
Our very first presentation with the Historical Society was Dustin DiAgostino. He did
I know.
metal detecting,
Yeah.
and he brought a bunch of artifacts he had found from Camp Meade and up near Kathy's, who does right on Fulling Mill,
Oh, yeah.
further more up, the Harmony House up there, and that was Easter seals, that area.
Yeah, Dustin is the other Camp Meade collector that I'd really like to get to know.
Well, and the people
Yeah, I thought he'd
stopped-
be here
they-
tonight. He
they
usually
said
comes.
They've been trying to get onto the property of the Oddfellows home, Room 230.
Oh, yeah.
But they couldn't, and they weren't allowed to do anything because it would have freaked out some of the residents there, so.
Yeah.
I don't know if they ever did get to go up there before it got developed.
Yeah, I don't know what Penn State's perspective is on that, but we've not found anything. I do know about Dustin's collection. I've actually been in contact with him, and I think he might
Can
give
still
us
get
some
stuff off
feedback.
eBay too.
Oh,
They have
yeah.
medals and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I mean, you can find, remember, the main pins.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a lot of military antique dealers who have stuff, so, yeah. I would love to go detectoring with
So
them.
would I.
I think I might get obsessed with that, right? Like,
Maybe your next presentation, we should just do a field.
a field survey?
Yeah.
That sounds like fun. Any other questions? I'm happy to hang around too to talk to folks. I know some, oh, and Dennis, would you like me to give you the floor? Because I know you were gonna make an announcement, so I'm just gonna hand the.
I don't need to.
You don't need them?
I don't
Okay.
think so. So folks, my name is Dennis Blake. I live in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and I'm a member of the Sons of the Spanish-American War Veterans. It's an organization that's been around for about 100 years now, and you can be a heritage member, which means that you have an ancestor who served in the Spanish-American War, the Philippine-American War, or the Boxer Rebellion in China. Or if you just have an interest in the Spanish-American War, you can be an associate member of the organization. Pennsylvania is fortunate because we actually have 2 camps. We have one based in Lebanon, the Alexander Quinn camp, and then there's one that's based in Philadelphia at the USS Olympia. If you're not aware, the Olympia was the flagship for Commodore Dewey when he defeats the Spanish fleet in Manila Bay. But it's only $20 a year to join the organization, and it's $20 every year. If you like history, you're going to be around a lot of people that really enjoy history, especially history of the Spanish-American War. If you want to find out more of the organization, I'll be here. You're welcome to stop by and talk to me. Or you can just go to Google and put in Sons of the Spanish-American War Veterans, and you'll be able to get the application to join the organization. Anybody have any questions? Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis, that's great. I didn't know about that, so I always like to learn.
Right, and you know, if you give us the information, we'll put something on our website that they can go to if you have a website, or to your information. Yeah.
Anything else? Any other questions, or I'll be happy to hang up. Oh, yes,
Just one thing I
Dennis.
wanted to point out, you were talking about the immune groups.
Immune regimen,
Um,
yeah.
Yellow fever was the biggest thing, they call it yellow jack.
Yep, yeah. Yeah, it's really unfortunate when you start looking at the history of that too, because I didn't know what that was before I got this collection.
Okay. Another round of applause for Heidi. Thank you so much. Yes. And please eat more pie before you